Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast. I am pleased to have Ben Bolch on, who is the Clippers beat writer for the LA Times. Ben, thanks for coming on the show, and I hope that you are ready to talk a little bit about the Clippers.
Absolutely. There's plenty to talk about. What a summer, huh?
Well, there certainly was, and before we get to the really exciting stuff from happened last month, just yesterday, your friend and mine, Bill Simmons, went on to Twitter and had a little bit of a weird rant almost about what was going on in Clipperland that I thought was a little bit eye-opening. And for those of you people who didn't see it or read it, I'll quickly read what he wrote. One of them, the first one said, quote, "Steve Ballmer seems like a nice enough guy. Donald Sterling was one of the worst human beings who ever owned a pro sports franchise." Two, with that said, since last summer, the Ballmer clips have been just as much of a disaster behind the scenes as the Sterling clips were. And the third one was, Ballmer has shown zero evidence that he knows what he's doing, and it's been the best kept secret in the NBA for 15 to 16 months. The Clips organization has been as dysfunctional as ever, not just the team, but especially off the court. It's a laundry list of things. And I'm going to be interested to see which reporter jeopardizes their long-term access connections to write the story, because it's coming. Ben, are you going to be that that reporter?
Well, that's a good question. And, certainly I think I've seen a few indications of what he's talking about. But I think in all fairness, it's probably to be fair to Steve Ballmer, we need to let it play out a little bit longer. I mean, there is some inside stuff going on that's a little bit questionable. I mean, yesterday we saw the thing with the NBA fining the Clippers $250,000 for making the pitch to DeAndre Jordan about getting a sponsorship deal with Lexus as part of their efforts to get him to stay to be a Clipper, which was something that the NBA said was not cool, and obviously fined them a big chunk of change, and I think that's just kind of one of the scratching the surface things that Bill Simmons is talking about here. And there's a couple other things I won't get into that I'm aware of that I think he's alluding to there. But like I said, it's still early in Steve Ballmer's tenure. I think he wants to do well. I think he has good intentions. And, let's see, maybe he'll acknowledge some mistakes, make some changes, and get this thing, headed in a better direction. But I will say, let's look at the roster, and that's the product that people care the most about. And I think that they did some great things this summer, and Doc Rivers certainly deserves a lot of credit for that.
Well, before we get to that, how did the NBA even find out that they pitched him this Lexus deal?
Yeah, I don't know the particulars of that. I just know that, it's kind of a big deal and it kind of isn't. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that they were doing everything they could to keep him. He's obviously, DeAndre Jordan is kind of a distant third in the pecking order as far as sponsorships. With the Clippers. Chris Paul is a well-known pitchman. Blake Griffin, does the key ads and other things. And keeping DeAndre Jordan happy and giving him these kinds of things like this Lexus thing was one of the things that the Clippers wanted to do because, he had made it known that he wanted these types of things. So I don't think there was anything evil or, any real bad intentions there. It was just the way it was done was not within the NBA guidelines, and they gave him, a pretty heavy slap on the wrist. I mean, $250,000 to Steve Ballmer is like, $25 to you or me, or maybe even 25 cents. But I think the point is made that, you guys have to get in these guidelines, and even though he's new at this, he should have known better. But I don't think there was anything sinister or evil about it. I think it's just, kind of a little bit of a slip, and he'll learn from it.
For sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about DeAndre Jordan in the leaving thing, because, what started to leak out a little bit was his relationship with Chris Paul and how that might have spurred his desire to leave. Can you weigh in a little bit about what that might have been like being in the thick of it?
Yeah, it was at times uncomfortable to watch. I mean, we heard and saw some things. There was the game against Portland where DeAndre Jordan, didn't get the tip in, back in time before the buzzer went off, and Chris Paul was literally jumping up and down and screaming at DeAndre right in his face to shoot the ball. There was another incident where, we were told that he verbally belittled him during a game and called him something I can't repeat here. But, there were times when Chris could be difficult and prickly, and that's, in his defense, that's kind of, his leadership style and a function of who he is. And I think his teammates get and appreciate that in a way, even though in the moment it may be difficult and they may be mad. I think, when they sit back long term and think about it, he wants the best for the team, and he's trying to get them to excel. And I think, that was kind of the big takeaway. And talking to DeAndre Jordan at the Team USA minicamp recently, I think the big takeaway is that they're actually closer now as a result of this. They kind of aired it all out at that infamous meeting in Houston when the Clippers players and team executives descended on his house in the efforts to get him to stay at the last minute. I think they're in a better place now going forward, and I think that's going to be a big help for everybody involved.
Well, what do you think? You think they're going to be able to make a run? I mean, what is their, obviously a championship or bust could very well be what this year is about. How far are they going to get?
Yeah, it's just so crazy. I mean, you could make a case for them winning the NBA championship. You could make a case for them losing in the first round. I mean, it's just nuts. That's just what the NBA Western Conference has, come to with such depth and so many good teams. I mean, I look at the top four in the West as being clearly, the Spurs with getting LaMarcus Aldridge and David West. You've got the defending champion Warriors, who are pretty basically intact from what they had. You've got the Clippers. You've got Oklahoma City, assuming that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook are both healthy. Last time that happened, they went to the NBA Finals. So, and let's not forget Memphis. They got better. They added a couple of guys, and they got Matt Barnes. I know that some people might laugh that I even mentioned that, but he's a nice little complement to the kind of grit and grind style that they love. So they're going to be right in the mix as well. And we saw last year the Clippers played the Spurs in the first round. It was probably the best series in the whole playoffs. And I think, they were pretty much separated by like a game in the standings. And that was like the 3-6 matchup. And it was just crazy to think that they could meet in the first round, and yet it happened. So, I think that something special could be in store for the Clippers. I think, Western Conference Finals is realistic. But like I said, it's going to come down to matchups, and they're going to have to get a good draw and get some luck along the way, and get some of these issues that we've talked about to go in their favor and not, kind of implode and go the other way, which is always a possibility. But, they do have some strong leadership in Doc and Paul Pierce and Chris Paul. So I think those are all things working in their favor.
Yeah. I mean, I think that some things have to kind of break right for them to do it, but that is the case for everybody. It doesn't seem that far out of the realm, but you're describing a bloodbath in the West. You didn't even mention New Orleans. And I think if anyone wants to sleep on them with Gentry as their coach, and they did some nice things, that's going to be a team that no one is going to play. And they match up very well with the Clippers. And also Utah. I think Utah is one of those other teams because they'll be able to shut you down no matter what they do on offense, and they can make it into one of those, 92, 91 games. And who knows what happens when that, you get in those grinds with a defensive team. So I would not want to be in the West if I were anybody these days.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's funny. I keep thinking every year, how can it get any better? And it just seems to happen every year. Obviously Portland took a step back, and maybe, Dallas definitely did with DeAndre not coming. But, there's always going to be teams that step up and fill that void. And you mentioned two of them with New Orleans, who already made the playoffs, and now they're looking to be, a top tier West team, and who say that can't happen with somebody as dynamic and just crazy good as Anthony Davis, and new coach in Alvin Gentry, who's very underrated and one of the best offensive minds in the NBA. So yeah, it's just going to be. I hate to start using cliches and sound like an NBA player, but it's like every night it's just going to be a battle, but fortunately we get to watch it, and it should be super entertaining.
Absolutely. Well, our battle is coming to an end, and it was super entertaining as well. So and informative. So Ben, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and giving us some really great insight. I guess it's clear that you're going to save these Ballmer stories for your book. Is that right?
Well, it'll be interesting to see if it's a championship book or another kind of book. But it's still to be determined. And whatever happens, it's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. Well, tell us where we can find you on Twitter for all the latest Clippers news.
Yes, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it's at LAT, as in Los Angeles Times, BBallBreakdown. So it's Ben Bolch at LAT BBallBreakdown.
Nice. Well, guys, check him all out, follow him, and keep up with all the Clippers happenings. And Ben, thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you on again soon.
Sounds good. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe we can do it early in the season, see if these moves are working out.
Absolutely. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ben?
Absolutely.